Story 1. Border Patrol had my phone, and my buddy sent me a text in which he jokingly said something like, "What makes you think they'll let you in this time?" Or something like that. A little backstory. I'm Muslim. Crossing into the States post 9/11 has had its moments, let's say that. Also, with my background come the typical jokes close friends will make. Actually, I think my friend's text was in response to me sending out a general message to people that I was heading down to the US. But this time I had signed up with a company that pairs people willing to drive with people who need their vehicle somewhere that they don't want to drive into themselves. Like snowbirds who go between Canada and Florida, Arizona, California, etc. It was my first time working for them, and I was going to pick up a car in Florida and drive it to Northern Ontario. I was flying down to Florida, and in the Toronto airport there's an American customs desk that clears you before leaving rather than when you arrive. The thing about it was that I didn't have as much information as I would have liked to have had. I didn't know the name of the person whose vehicle it was, and I didn't have the address of where I was picking it up. I had email correspondence with the business owner, but he was a little behind in providing the relevant paperwork. So in this case, from a border officer's perspective, I do kind of understand the rigmarole that followed. Because you had a single mail with a one-way ticket to Florida and a not-so-substantiated story about how I was going to not stay indefinitely in the States, I was directed to secondary inspection, which is a place I'm pretty familiar with, except this time I didn't notice the signs about not using electronics while in there because I was too busy staring at my phone. The secondary inspection area was just a room with a lot of empty seats and nobody else. I waited for like 10 to 15 minutes playing around on my phone when the door I had entered opened and an officer who was probably preoccupied with something else passed through, noticed me on my phone and was like, "Hey, you can't be on that. Give it here." So off goes my phone with the officer as they exit to another room. A seemingly long time goes by and another officer comes back with my phone and my relatively congenial question period begins, where I have to explain, among other things, what the hell I'm doing in the States and how it works, why I might not get let into the States, as per my friend's text, which he must have sent while I didn't have my phone, a joke concept I've saved in my notes app about smoking grass. But after all, I did get through. Arguably, coming back with someone else's vehicle across the border was a worse experience. Well, this dude just got patrolled by his friend. A good thing the agent had a little bit of sense of humor and let him through. Story 2. Not me, but a friend we'll call Bob. Bob, some friends, and I went out one night to watch a show in town. Afterwards, we decided to go get some drinks and decided to carpool. Bob's phone was dying, so he asked if he could charge it on the way over with a car charger. While it was charging, it had apparently connected to the car's speaker system, and without a warning, the car read a new text message out loud to all of our surprise. "Hey baby, it's been a long time since we had some fun. How about we have some fun tonight?" Needless to say, he was mortified, and the rest of us rolled with laughter on our way to the bar. Story 3. I was the one doing the sending. I moved to Japan a couple of years ago, and early one morning I was at a market and saw a tanuki statue that had the full private parts on display. I took a picture of it and thought it would be funny to send my brother a message reading, "Unsolicited private pic." Then send a picture of the tanuki statue. Little did I know, halfway around the world my brother was doing some late evening car shopping. He had recently been in an accident that totaled his car and was in the market for a new one. He had handed the car salesman his phone so he could show the guy the pictures of the damage to his car, and the guy was looking through them with the words, "Unsolicited private pic," popped up on the screen. My brother said the guy nearly dropped the phone, trying to shove it back in his hands. Story 4. A couple of years ago, I met a guy from Tinder in a pub for a first date. Things were going well. We were having a laugh and flirting. After about an hour, I took out my phone to show him a funny meme, and up popped a notification from my new period tracking app saying, "Today's the day, you're ovulating." I swiped it real quick, and I don't think he got a good look at it, but I was still worried he'd think I was some child-obsessed weirdo who timed my dates so random Tinder guys could impregnate me. I turned off ovulation notifications after that. For my second story, I was the sender once when I texted my friend who was planning to break up with her boyfriend. "Hope you're okay. How did Gary take the breakup?" When Gary was using her phone and hadn't yet broken up with. Gary took it very badly. They'd been together for 10 years and he was completely blindsided. He was a very self-centered person, so the fact that his relationship was in tatters, they hadn't slept together for 2 years at this point, and his girlfriend was deeply unhappy had apparently passed him by. Sorry, Gary. Relationships can sometimes be over long before either party has the courage to do anything about it, so this girl just did her friend a favor. Honest mistake with positive result. Story 5. When I was in high school, my friends and I had the habit of giving each other funny contact names on our phones based on jokes we came up with. To this day, my high school friends' contact names include things such as River Witch, Baby America, Sugar Mama, etc. When we were juniors, a girl who was obsessed with my friend led to his contact name becoming Bumlord, with some rather suggestive emojis following it. Everything was fine and dandy until a few months later when I had forgotten about it. I was applying for a leadership position in the club I was a member of and was required to get 2 letters of recommendation. For the second letter, I asked one of my teachers, who happened to be a very conservative man in his late 70s, if he could write one for me. Being the lazy son of a witch that he was, he told me to write the letter myself, saying all the things I wanted him to say, and he'd sign it. After I finished typing up the letter, I handed him my phone to let him read and approve it before I printed it out. About 45 seconds later, he very loudly and incredulously said, "Bumlord," and gave me a horrified look before he shoved the phone back into my hands. That was hard to explain. Story 6. I was holding my ex's phone when a notification popped up about a message from a coworker. I memorized the number as soon as I saw the notification pop up and the inappropriate message. I used the number and information that they were coworkers to find all the personal information about the guy. I used all his information to find the information of everyone in his immediate family. Once I had everything, I brought up the text with my ex and asked her what was up. She said they were just friends and she told him he couldn't message her like that. I didn't believe her, so I went snooping through her stuff and found a sickening amount of evidence in their conversations and pictures. After I regrouped myself from feeling sick, I went to town and contacted everyone in the circle, from his grandma to his boss. Petty? Sure, but the feeling of telling his grandma that he was a cheating piece of trash for the family was a shot of adrenaline and relief that I had never experienced. I sat there with a villainous smile until my ex called me, saying, "What did I do?" Was it insane? Yeah, I didn't ever think I'd do something like that. At that point, I was feeling so mentally and physically sick that I can't describe what it feels like unless you've been betrayed like that before. I was so fueled by rage that I honestly would have done anything if you told me to, besides actual physical harm. But reading through conversations that went on for months and knowing that he very well knew my ex was in a long-term relationship and kept pushing and pushing made it that much easier to throw a wrench in the guy's life who thought he was smooth sailing. Story 7. I'm surprised there aren't more teacher stories. For me, that's easily my most mortifying one. I had this roommate my sophomore year of college and we had a very weird, close personal relationship. I was in my Spanish professor's office hours and she was waiting for me at the cafeteria to get lunch together. Just before going in, I texted her and asked her to get me some fries and then I turned off my phone. I was showing my professor my paper on my laptop screen, very much forgetting that I had iMessage set up on my laptop. I'll never forget the look on his face when a notification from my roommate came in with her jokingly saying, "I'll get you fries, but only if you sensually feed them to me while you call me daddy." Suffice it to say, that was my last time visiting his office hours. That's some epic friendship right there. This girl served those fries on a platter with a side of embarrassment. Story 8. Years ago, I was working at an Apple store as a genius technician and was helping an older woman with her phone. This woman had to be in her late 60s or early 70s, the sweetest could be. I was having some minor issues with her phone. I think it was battery life or something. So she hands me her phone and just as she does, a message pops up with a picture of a full toilet and the message reads, "How many times do I have to tell you to flush the toilet?" Not knowing really what to do, I just handed it back to her and told her she had a message. She took the phone, half smiled, closed the message, and handed it back, saying, "Sorry about that, sweetheart. My daughter can be a bit of a witch." Story 9. I had a close friend who was definitely crazy and for whatever reason, used to say he violated things as a substitute for the proper verb. I violated my homework, I violated some gas in my car, etc. I also use my phone for work, as a construction contractor, so for estimating, I was showing a client a picture of some available products on my phone when, "Hey, do you want to violate some lunch in a little bit?" came scrolling across the top of my phone. If my client noticed, they didn't let on because it got the sale, but that's when I turned the text preview off and never turned it back on. I miss that dude. I'm guessing this dude's friend violated a few too many things, landing himself in some hilarious trouble, but hey, since the dude misses him, those must have been legendary times. If you want to stay on the right side of mischief, why not show that like button some love and hit subscribe in my channel? I've got a bunch of tips and tricks to keep the good times rolling. Story 10. I've had the reverse of this situation happen to me. I was using my flatmate's desktop Mac, and as iOS users will know, any notification you get on your iPhone will appear on screen on all of your other Apple devices. I was on the computer in his bedroom while he was in the kitchen grabbing a snack, and he received a phone call from an unknown number. I saw this notification on his computer, which gave me the option to answer the call for him. I thought it would be funny if I took the call before he could answer it on his phone, meaning he would have to run through his bedroom, where I would be silently laughing myself to an early grave. I clicked to answer, expecting it to be some kind of cold call. The voice on the other end, amplified by my flatmate's gratuitous Sonos speaker setup, said, "Hello, this is the police." My soul left my body. I absolutely cannonballed out of his room, making the most apologetic eye contact I've ever made with a human being. It turns out he had been caught red-handed in a traffic accident on his way back from an interview. They got his contact details from the dashcam footage of his registration plate. They were calling him in for some questioning. It was a wonderfully devious experience, which I was absolutely not prepared for. We have never spoken of it since. Story 11. My first manager-level job had me coordinating employees at 2 different sites. I knew that some of them would take advantage and take their time getting to work when I was not there. I didn't really mind, as long as they were getting their work done. Still, it was getting bad enough that the upper administrators were noticing. So I cracked their whip a little bit. I was meeting with one of my staff members, Adela, and she had her phone out on my desk.
While we were chatting, a text notification came through on our phone from a different team member, Bonnie, who was the most notorious for being late. Is she there yet? I saw the notification, let out a big laugh, and continued with the meeting. Later, I had a quick talk with Bonnie about how, rather than worry about whether I'm there, she should try a little harder at getting to work on time. I'm pretty sure Adela adjusted her phone notifications after that. Story 12. This was like mid-90s and I was still quite young. I just got back from a school soccer game on the bus. At some point on the drive, I opened the back door and the alarm went off. I closed it. I thought things were cool because the driver just yelled at me and then dropped it. Later that night, my mom comes into my room and says, "I heard you pulled a real chubby on the bus earlier." My face went flush. I both smiled and looked confused. My mom, a deeply Baptist woman, continued, "What chubby did you pull today?" in an escalating tone. I couldn't help it. I busted out laughing. That's my last recollection of that event. I can't remember what happened next. I dare not bring it up to her nowadays, and I'm almost 40. You can't explain some things to Mom. You gotta love the expressions they used in the 60s. If only that Mom knew what a chubby means now. Story 13. I was chatting with a guy and it was going well, just mild flirting, so I didn't care when I gave my buddy my phone for some reason. Then across the room he yells, "Yo, this dude just asked if you'd be down to do it from the back." I was kind of shocked, so I went, "What?" So he actually yelled it again for a second time, and then all of us collectively gathered around my phone to see that he texted me, and my buddy said, "Want me to get rid of him for you?" To which I said yes. I saw the message and was instantly turned off. I handed the phone back over to my buddy, and he had so much fun trolling this dude under the guise that I was the one texting him. It was awesome. For like a year, whenever I didn't want to chat with anyone, I gave my phone to him and he dealt with it. Story 14. Not really my phone, but I had text notifications on my computer. I was working with a vendor and sharing my screen, and my significant other picked that time to send me a text that said, "That was the most amazing fun we've ever had last night." I silenced the notification as fast as I could, but the vendor went quiet for half a minute and then said, "Good job." So I got out of that awkward zone pretty well. I never shared my screen with notifications active ever again. Story 15. Me and my friend used to do this thing where we'd make weird noises on the phone, mostly just to annoy the other person. I decided to call my friend, and when the call was answered, I let out a groan that progressively turned into a screech. It turns out his dad was the one who answered, and all I can hear here is him yelling, "Why the hell are you friends with this guy?" in the background. I never saw this as a competition, but if it was, I think I won. I think the dad won. His reaction was epic. Story 16. Obligatory, not me but a friend. My roommate's mom came to visit, so we decided to take her out to lunch. While we were waiting, my roommate took out her iPad. She had some board games on there, so we started playing Sorry together. She obviously didn't think about how all her devices were linked because halfway through the game, "You want to play?" Text notification comes in at the top of the screen, followed by a thumbnail of a private photo. Sorry indeed. Story 17. Not my phone. In high school, there was a couple who had recently started dating. Let's call them John and Sarah. They were both seen as quite innocent, and we were all in theater together. I was at a rehearsal at John's house, and he showed me his phone for a second. Right as I looked, a text popped up from Sarah saying, "I want you to do me from behind." I was a bit in shock and started laughing uncomfortably, and when John received his phone back, he was horrified. Personally, I just thought it was hilarious and definitely a pivotal moment for that group of theater kids. Story 18. Not me, but my mom. I went skiing with her and myself. Her partner at the time was also snowboarding, but at a resort about a 20-minute drive from where we were staying. He was there with his friends. In the town they were staying in, there's a really nice steakhouse that does amazing filet. Anyway, he sent her a picture of the steak one night while we were just chilling in the hotel room. As she turns the phone around saying, "Oh, look how amazing this steak looks." Another message pops up, unknown to my mom, saying, "Tastes like you." And that is how I cannot eat filet steak anymore. Some things are best left unsaid and unseen, especially if it has something to do with your folks' intimate relations. Story 19. Recently married, 3 months in, my wife went to Yosemite for a girl trip. I texted and didn't hear back for a couple of days, which worries me because she had cell service and was posting on social media. I opened up her laptop and iMessages started to come in, and I saw that a guy I didn't know but apparently her old high school flame was missing each other. Divorce. Story 20. I used to be the director of an a cappella group. During rehearsal, I would project sheet music from my tablet onto a big screen to help people follow along. We were having solo auditions one day, and after one girl auditioned, the assistant director texted me from across the room. My tablet received a message and the notification was displayed for everyone in the group to see, including the girl who had just auditioned. Story 21. I was dating a girl who would lose her phone, so she would borrow mine to make calls. Another friend, F, texted me a picture of her in her dinosaur Halloween costume. The girl came back to me and slapped me in the face. She threw my phone at me, yelling, "What kind of sick stuff are you into?" while storming off. This was at my work, bartender, in the middle of a busy night. Everyone in the restaurant looked at me like I was diddling kids or something. Story 22. I did this to my roommate once. Background, he's a professor at a college and I'm a first responder. We usually leave around the same time in the morning for our work days, so I knew he would be awake if I was bored at work and wanted someone to bother. On this particular shift, my first call out of the chute was a prolapse. Of course, I had to tell someone about this medical marvel, so who do you think I texted just shy of 8 a.m.? He had just plugged in his back into the projector, and lo and behold, the text message, nothing like starting your day with a prolapse, pops up on his screen for his entire class to see. Yeah, I got an earful that night and he changed his computer messaging settings. Still one of our favorite stories to tell. Story 23. The other way around. I was borrowing my boyfriend's computer to send him some pictures from his computer to his phone. In the upper corner, it was non-stop talking from girls. I clicked on one and she sent pictures. It turns out he was sending money to women. My money. Several $100s. I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy. People that called phone numbers in public bathrooms. What happened? Story 5 is so wild. See you on that video.